the knife pressed against Princess Kayla's throat before anyone in the corridor realized the servant had moved. One moment, the human named Marcus stood motionless beside the refreshment cart, eyes downcast as palace protocol demanded. The next, his arm encircled the young princess with inhuman speed, the blade gleaming against her pale blue skin. "Nobody moves," the servant hissed. His voice trembled, but his hand remained steady. "I walk out of here with the girl, or she dies." 20 elite warriors lined the hallway, weapons drawn, but none dared fire. The princess was only 7 cycles old, her silver eyes wide with terror as she struggled to breathe against the blade. "Stand down!" Vex ordered his troops, though every instinct screamed to rush forward. He'd commanded the guard for 30 years, survived 3 assassination attempts on the royal family, and never felt this helpless. The human began backing toward the service exit, dragging Kayla with him. "Drop your weapons." All of them. Vex complied first, his plasma rifle clattering to the marble floor. His soldiers followed, the sound echoing like thunder through the corridor. The human's eyes darted between them, calculating, desperate. "Please," Kayla whispered, her small voice cutting through the tension. "You're hurting me." The servant's grip didn't loosen, but something flickered across his face. Pain. Regret. Whatever drove him, it wasn't hatred. "I'm sorry," he muttered. "But they have my daughter. The Crick Syndicate took her 3 days ago. They said if I didn't..." His voice broke. "I'm sorry." A Crick's Syndicate. Criminal empire spanning 12 systems known for exploiting human refugees fleeing the core wars. They'd threatened the palace before, but never like this. Never with one of their own victims. "We can help you," Vex said carefully, taking a half step forward. "Release the princess and we'll find your daughter." "Liar!" The human jerked backward, and Kayla whimpered as the blade nicked her skin. A thin line of violet blood appeared. "You don't help humans. Nobody helps humans. We're just..." A blur of motion cut him short. Marcus flew backward, the knife spinning from his hand as something struck him with impossible force. He hit the wall hard enough to crack stone, crumpling to the floor. Before Vex could process what happened, another human stood between them and the fallen servant. This one wore civilian clothes, simple gray tunic and pants, but carried himself like a predator. Tall, lean, with dark hair graying at the temples and eyes that held depths Vex couldn't fathom. He'd appeared from nowhere, moving faster than Vex's trained eyes could track. The stranger knelt beside Kayla, checking her throat with gentle fingers. "You're safe now, little one." "I know you," Kayla breathed, wonder replacing fear. "You're the quiet man from the garden. You showed me the blue flowers." The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I did, and I told you they only bloom in darkness." He stood, turning to face Vex with an expression that made the captain's blood freeze. "This one's unconscious. He'll live. But you have bigger problems." "Who are you?" Vex demanded, scooping Kayla into his arms. His soldiers had retrieved their weapons, training them on the newcomer. "Just a gardener." The human's gaze swept over the armed guards without concern. "But I know the Crick Syndicate. They don't take hostages to leverage palace servants." This was a distraction. The words hit Vex like a physical blow. "The Queen." He thrust Kayla toward his lieutenant and ran, the human keeping pace beside him with effortless grace. Behind them, alarms began shrieking through the palace. Vex's communicator erupted with panicked voices. "Captain, the throne room. 8 hostiles, heavily armed. The Queen is trapped. They burst through the throne room doors into chaos." Queen Sereth stood behind her desk, the massive piece of ironwood furniture providing scant cover from the armored figures advancing on her. Her personal guards lay dead or dying, their blood pooling on the ancient tiles. The Crick's assassins turned as one, recognizing the new threat. Vex raised his rifle, knowing he wouldn't fire fast enough. But the human was already moving. What happened next would haunt Vex's nightmares and fill his dreams in equal measure. The quiet gardener became something else, something terrifying and beautiful in its efficiency. He flowed between the assassins like water, each movement precise, economical, deadly. Bones broke with sharp cracks. Weapons clattered useless to the floor. In less than 10 seconds, 8 of the galaxy's most feared killers lay groaning in defeat. The human stood among them, breathing steady, not a drop of blood on his gray tunic. Queen Sereth emerged from behind her desk, violet eyes fixed on the man. Her expression held no surprise, only grim acknowledgement. "Marcus Kane," she said quietly. "I should have known you wouldn't stay hidden forever." Vex felt reality shift beneath his feet. That name. Every soldier in the sector knew that name. The Ghost of Proxima. The man who'd ended the Core Wars by walking alone into the enemy flagship and killing everyone aboard. The human the Galactic Council had spent 15 years hunting before declaring him dead. Your Majesty. Kane bowed slightly, that same gentle smile playing at his lips. I'm afraid these gentlemen wanted to talk with you about your new human immigration policy. They seemed quite insistent. And Marcus? Sareth asked. The servant? Victim. His daughter's being held in the lower sectors. I'll retrieve her tonight. Kane's voice held absolute certainty. Vex found his voice, though it emerged rougher than intended. Why are you here? In this palace? Gain turned those ancient eyes on him. Because the Queen offered me something I haven't had in a very long time, Captain. Peace, a garden to tend. Flowers that bloom in darkness. His gaze shifted to Sareth. And because she asked. The Queen moved forward, stepping over the groaning assassins without glancing down. Captain Vex, I believe you have questions. Come to my private chambers in 1 hour. Bring your lieutenant and seal the throne room. No one speaks of what happened here until we understand the full scope of this attack. Yes, Your Majesty. Vex saluted, mind reeling. As his soldiers secured the prisoners, Vex watched Kane fade back toward the garden doors, the most dangerous human in known space, content to trim hedges and show flowers to children. It made no sense. Captain? One of his guards approached. The princess is asking for the quiet man. She wants to thank him for saving her. The doorway was empty, only the scent of blue night flowers drifting through the air. Tell her he's tending the gardens, Vex said softly. Where he belongs. The communicator in Vex's hand crackled. Captain, we found something in the service tunnels. 3 more Crix operatives, unconscious. They were heading for the nursery. Vex closed his eyes. The nursery, where Princess Kayla's younger brothers slept. The attack had been coordinated, multi-pronged, designed to strike at every member of the royal family simultaneously. Only one thing had stopped it. One quiet human who'd decided to care. Queen Sareth appeared beside him, her voice too low for others to hear. You're wondering why I hired him. Among other things, Your Majesty, because I needed someone who understood what it meant to lose everything and choose to protect rather than destroy. She watched the guards carry away the wounded. The galaxy fears Marcus Cana because they've only seen what he can take away. I hired him because I saw what he could give back. And the immigration policy, Vex asked. Opening our borders to human refugees has just been justified, wouldn't you say? Sareth smiled grimly, though I doubt the council will see it that way. We'll have diplomatic hell to weather. They'll demand we turn him over. They can demand all they like. Marcus Kane died 15 years ago. Now there's only a gardener who likes blue flowers and frightened children. She turned to leave. 1 hour, Captain. Bring solutions, not more questions. Vex stood alone in the throne room as medics tended to the wounded and his soldiers processed the scene. Through the garden doors, he could see Kane kneeling among the night flowers, pruning shears in hand, the picture of serenity. A child's scream echoed from the corridor. Kayla burst through the doors, evading her caretakers, running straight for the garden. Kayla looked up, those deadly hands setting aside the shears with infinite gentleness. Did you really save me? Kayla asked, breathless. You saved yourself by being brave, Kane replied. I just helped a little. Mother says you used to be a soldier, a long time ago. Were you scary? Kane's expression grew distant. Very scary. To very bad people. Good. Kayla reached out and took his hand. Will you show me more flowers? The ones that only bloom when it's dark? It's almost evening, Kine said, standing. Perfect timing. Vex watched them walk deeper into the garden, the most feared human in the galaxy holding hands with a 7-year-old princess, talking about flowers. The absurdity of it struck him so hard he nearly laughed. His communicator buzzed. Captain, we've completed the sweep. No more hostiles, but we found surveillance equipment throughout the palace. Someone's been watching for weeks. Disable it all. Quietly. Vex paused and checked the garden. Every centimeter. 30 minutes later, his lieutenant returned with an interesting report. The garden had surveillance equipment too, but it had been systematically disabled weeks ago. Not destroyed. Just carefully rendered useless with the kind of expertise that suggested military intelligence training. Someone had been protecting the palace long before today's attack. Vex found Kane sitting beside the fountain as dusk settled over the grounds, Kayla asleep against his shoulder. The blue night flowers were opening, their soft glow illuminating the darkness. She was tired, Kane said without looking up. Adrenaline crash. Brave children still need rest. You knew they were coming. Vex kept his distance, one hand on his sidearm. Not that it would matter if Kane decided to move. How long? They've been planning this for months. Your security is good, Captain, but the Cricks specialize in patience. Kine gently shifted Kayla's weight. I've been mapping their operations since I noticed the first surveillance drone. You could have told us. Would you have believed a gardener? Kane finally met his eyes. Or would you have investigated me instead, discovered who I was, and created the exact chaos that would have made today's attack succeed? Vex had no answer because Kine was right. The protocol for discovering the ghost of Proxima in their midst would have thrown the palace into lockdown, pulling resources and attention from threat assessment. Marcus's daughter, Vex said instead. Where is she? Third building from the corner, basement level, 4 guards. I'll go at midnight. We should send a tactical team. They'd die. Kane's voice held no arrogance, just fact. The Cricks booby-trap their holdings. I know their patterns. I'll go alone. Her Majesty won't approve. Her Majesty hired me because she knew this day would come. Humans defending humans. Isn't that what your new immigration policy promises? Protection for those who have none? Kaela stirred, mumbling in her sleep. Kane hummed something soft, a lullaby in a language Vex didn't recognize. The princess settled.
Why flowers?
Vex asked finally. Why hide here? You could be anywhere, anyone. Because I've spent enough years being deaf, Captain. I wanted to be life for a while. To grow things instead of destroying them. The Queen understood that. Kane looked down at Kayla. And because children shouldn't have to be afraid. Not in their own home. What you are. By then, maybe they'll understand what I am now. He stood carefully cradling Kayla. A gardener who occasionally handles the weeds. Vex stepped aside, watching Kane carry the princess toward her chambers. The man moved like shadow, like silk, like death, postponed but never forgotten. His communicator buzzed. A queen summoning him. In her private chambers, Sareth stood before a holographic display showing the Crick Syndicate's known operations. Red markers dotted a dozen worlds. They won't stop, she said without preamble. This was a message. They'll send more. Then we need to hit them first, Vex replied. Full military response, which would trigger Council sanctions against us for aggressive action. Sareth dimmed the display. No, we need precision. Surgical strikes that can't be traced to the palace. You mean Cain? I mean, we use the asset we have. Marcus Cain ended a war by eliminating command structure. The Cricks operate on the same principle. Cut the head, the body dies. Vex felt cold. Your Majesty, you're talking about assassination. My people. The 1,000 human refugees who've sought shelter here in the last month alone. Her voice hardened. The Cricks want war. They'll get it, just not the kind they expect. And Cain? Does he know you're planning to use him like this? Sareth smiled, but it held no warmth. He suggested it 2 hours ago while you were securing the throne room. He came to my chambers and laid out a complete tactical breakdown of the Crick's power structure. Names, locations, weaknesses. Then he offered to solve the problem. In exchange for what? He said he was going anyway after retrieving Marcus's daughter. Apparently the Cricks had been exploiting human refugees for months, using them as leverage against each other, building a network of coerced servants throughout the palace sector. She pulled up another display. 43 families compromised. 43 people like Marcus, forced to spy or sabotage or worse.
We need to extract them all.
We will. But first we need to eliminate the threat holding them hostage. One man, even Marcus Kaine, is worth an army if the stories are true. And today proved they are. Sareth's expression softened slightly. I don't like using him this way, Captain. But he's offering, and we need him. The question is whether you can accept that your palace has been protected by a ghost for the last 6 months. 6 months? Vex's head snapped up. He's been here since the first immigration petition passed the council. I hired him personally, through intermediaries he trusted. He wanted peace. I gave it to him. In return, he's kept my family safer than any military force could have. She moved to the window, looking out over the gardens where blue flowers glowed in the darkness. Do you know what the galaxy doesn't understand about humans, Captain? They think humanity's strength lies in their capacity for violence, but it doesn't. It lies in their ability to choose what they protect even after they've lost everything. Marcus chose Kalea today, Vex said quietly. He chose all of us, every day. By staying quiet, staying hidden, pretending to be less than he is so that we could be safe. Sereth turned back. Tonight he'll choose again, and tomorrow the Crix Syndicate will learn what it means to threaten a human's garden. Vex left the Queen's chambers with new orders and a queasy feeling in his gut. By midnight, he stood in the palace security center, watching surveillance feeds from the warehouse district. Kane appeared on screen at exactly 1200 hours. No equipment, no weapons, no armor. Just the quiet man in gray, walking through shadows like he belonged there. The warehouse guards never saw him coming. 4 bodies dropped in rapid succession, each strike placed with surgical precision. Non-lethal, Vex noted. Kane could have killed them effortlessly but chose restraint. Even now, even here, he chose to protect rather than destroy. The basement door opened. Kane descended. The feed went black. "What happened?" Vex demanded. "Interference," the technician reported. "Electromagnetic pulse. Crix standard security protocol. Can we get it back?" "We're blind." 5 minutes. 15. The feed flickered back to life. Kane emerged carrying a small human child, maybe 5 years old, wrapped in his tunic. Behind him, the warehouse burned. Not the explosive destruction Vex expected, but a controlled blaze that would consume evidence while allowing firefighters time to respond. He set the fire, the technician breathed, destroyed the entire Crix operation, and saved the girl. Vex watched Kane disappear into the night. Track him. "Can't, sir. He's just..." 3 hours later, as dawn broke over the palace, Marcus the servant woke to find his daughter sleeping safely in his quarters. No explanation, no demands, just his child returned and a single blue night flower placed on the pillow beside her. Vex found Kane in the garden at sunrise, pruning roses like nothing had happened. The man's hands were steady, his clothes immaculate, his face serene. "The warehouse?" Vex asked. "Had a gas leak. Very unfortunate." Kane didn't look up. "The Crix won't be using that location anymore. Or the 6 other warehouses they operated in this sector. Strange coincidence, all those gas leaks in one night. 7 operations? You hit 7 locations? 8. The last one was a processing center for human trafficking. It's currently hosting several of my old military colleagues who happen to be in the area." Kine smiled. "They'll make sure the refugees get proper resettlement assistance. You called in favors." "I called in a debt. The core wars may be over, but the humans who fought them remember what we fought for. Freedom. Protection for those who couldn't protect themselves." He finally looked at Vex. "We're very good at violence, Captain. But we're better at choosing what we defend." Vex's communicator buzzed. The Queen requesting immediate presence. In the throne room, Sereth stood before the Galactic Council's holographic representatives. 20 species, 40 eyes, all fixed on her with varying degrees of hostility. "You harbor a war criminal," Ambassador Thex accused, his scales flushing crimson. "Marcus Kane is wanted for..." "Marcus Kane is dead," Sereth interrupted calmly. "Has been for 15 years. I have a gardener named Marcus. Different person entirely." "Your Majesty, please." The Quillian representative leaned forward. "We have evidence. Surveillance from last night shows him destroying Crix operations throughout your capital. I have evidence of Crix operations being destroyed by gas leaks and structural failures. If you have proof of sabotage, I'd be happy to investigate." Sereth's voice could have frozen hydrogen. "But I'm more interested in discussing why the Crix Syndicate had 8 illegal operation sites in my capital and none of you mentioned it despite your extensive intelligence networks." The council chamber fell silent. "The Crix have been trafficking human refugees for months," Sereth continued, "using them as leverage to infiltrate governments, steal secrets, conduct assassinations. Yesterday they attacked my palace. My children? And you're concerned about a gardener? If that gardener is Marcus Kane," Thex began, "then perhaps you should ask yourselves why the most dangerous human in the galaxy chose to protect my children instead of harming them. What that says about your assessment of his character versus mine." Vex watched the council members exchange glances. They knew they'd lost this argument before it began. "We demand to interview this gardener," the Quillian said finally. Denied. My staff has privacy rights. Then we'll send investigators. You're welcome to try. Though I should warn you, the gardens are quite extensive. Easy to get lost. Sareth smiled. I'd hate for any accidents to occur. The council wasn't being offered a choice. They were being told the rules. Ambassador Thex hissed in frustration. This sets a dangerous precedent, Your Majesty. I see it as setting a precedent for protecting those who can't protect themselves, for giving refugees sanctuary instead of using them as political pawns. For recognizing that humans are people, not weapons. She leaned forward. The core wars ended because humans chose to stop fighting. But if you push them, if you threaten those they've chosen to protect, you'll learn exactly why that choice was mercy. The transmission ended. Sareth slumped slightly, the weight of confrontation settling on her shoulders. They'll try again, Vex said quietly. The council doesn't give up easily. By then every refugee in this sector will know there's one place humans are valued, not exploited. We'll have thousands seeking sanctuary. The council will have to choose between respecting our sovereignty or admitting they don't actually care about human welfare. What happens when they do find proof? They already have proof, Captain. They've always known. The question is whether they're brave enough to act on it. Sareth moved to the window. Because removing Marcus Kane from this palace means sending forces here, confronting him directly. And I don't think the council has the stomach for that kind of casualties. In the garden, Kayla found Kane teaching a class of young human children how to plant seeds. Refugee children, recently arrived, still wearing the haunted looks of those who'd fled violence. You put it in the soil, Kine explained gently, and you give it water and light. You protect it from things that would hurt it, and slowly, patiently, it grows into something beautiful. What if bad things come? A small boy asked. What if they try to hurt our flowers? Kane's expression remained gentle, but his eyes held steel. Then you stand between the flowers and the bad things. You protect them. Because that's what gardens need. Someone willing to pull the weeds. Kaela understood. The children understood. They smiled, their fear easing slightly in the presence of someone who knew how to fight but chose to teach planting instead. Bex watched from the doorway, finally comprehending what Sareth had seen 6 months ago. Marcus Caney wasn't hiding in the palace. He was healing, using gentle moments to piece himself back together after years of being a weapon. And if anyone threatened those gentle moments, they'd discover why the galaxy had feared him in the first place. That evening, as blue night flowers bloomed and children slept safely in their beds, Vex found Kane sitting alone by the fountain. The council will send operatives, Vex said without preamble, probably within the week. I know. Kane didn't seem concerned. They'll try to confirm my identity through biometric scanning or genetic sampling. Can they? If I let them, he smiled. And the Queen's privacy laws are very thorough. This doesn't bother you? Being hunted again? Kane looked up at the stars. The difference is, now I have something worth protecting. That makes all the difference. The children? The ability to wake up every morning and decide to grow things instead of destroying them. The Queen gave me that gift. His voice softened.
I'll defend it. And her.
And every person who seeks shelter here. Because that's who I choose to be now. Vex sat beside him, watching the flowers glow. You know there's a chance the council will force the issue. Send an army. Then they'll learn what one human can do when fighting for a garden instead of a war. Kine's tone held no arrogance, only certainty. I ended the core wars alone, Captain. I can defend one palace. You shouldn't have to. No, but I will. Because Kayla deserves to grow up unafraid. Because those refugee children deserve to plant seeds without wondering if tomorrow they'll be taken again. Because the Queen chose compassion when the galaxy chose fear. He stood, brushing soil from his hands. And because someone has to pull the weeds. Vex watched him walk back toward the flower beds, this quiet man who'd chosen peace but kept war close enough to touch. The most dangerous human in the galaxy, content with soil under his fingernails and children's laughter in his garden. And somehow in the blue glow of night flowers blooming in darkness, it made perfect sense. The next morning, Vex received reports of 3 more Crix operations dismantled overnight. No casualties, no witnesses, just clean surgical strikes that left the Syndicate reeling. By week's end, the Crix presence in the sector had collapsed entirely, their leaders gone to ground, their operations scattered. The Council sent investigators. They found a quiet gardener who refused testing and a queen who refused to cooperate. The investigation stalled. Human refugees continued arriving, drawn by stories of a place where they were valued, protected, treated as people rather than problems. The palace gardens expanded. More children learned to plant seeds. More families found safety behind walls defended by someone who understood what they'd lost. And every evening, as darkness fell and blue flowers bloomed, Marcus Kane sat by the fountain and remembered what it meant to choose life over death, growth over destruction, peace over war. The galaxy still feared him. They just didn't understand he'd found something more powerful than fear to fight for. He'd found a garden worth defending.